The security camera captures it all. Channel 7 star investigative reporter Rachel Morrison mid-sentence, her face illuminating the screen as she exposes a corruption scandal that would topple 3 city councilmen. Then, in the space between one word and the next, she simply vanishes. The empty news desk continues broadcasting to dead air for 17 agonizing seconds before the feed cuts to black. 5 years later, a grainy YouTube video changes everything. Sarah Chun adjusts her laptop screen for the 3rd time this morning, squinting at the blurry footage her sister Emma uploaded last night. The title reads, "Weird Glitch at Mall Security, CM Ghost." But what catches Sarah's attention isn't the supposed paranormal activity her conspiracy theorist sister is obsessing over. It's the reflection in the jewelry store window. "Emma, can you enhance this part?" Sarah points to a section of the video where the camera pans across the mall's 2nd-floor corridor. In the background, barely visible in the polished surface of Morrison's Jewelers, a woman's silhouette moves past. Emma leans closer, her purple-streaked hair falling across her face. "I already tried. The resolution is garbage." "Why are you so interested in some random shopper?" Sarah's finger hovers over the pause button. The woman in the reflection has shoulder-length auburn hair, cut in a distinctive asymmetrical style that was all over fashion magazines 5 years ago. More telling is the way she walks, that purposeful stride, shoulders slightly hunched forward, like someone carrying the weight of too many secrets. "It's her," Sarah whispers. "Her who?" "Rachel Morrison," Emma snorts. "The reporter who disappeared." "Sarah, come on, she's dead." Everyone knows that. But Sarah remembers. She remembers because Rachel Morrison was more than just Channel 7's prize journalist. She was the woman who'd been investigating Sarah's father's construction company 3 weeks before she vanished. The woman whose final broadcast had mentioned inconsistencies in building permits and potential safety violations that could have destroyed everything the Chen family had built. The woman Sarah's father claimed he'd never met. "Play it again," Sarah says, her voice steadier than she feels. Emma rolls her eyes but complies. The mall footage runs again, 37 seconds of grainy security camera feed showing what appears to be a technical glitch that makes shoppers flicker in and out of frame. But there, for exactly 2 seconds, the reflection shows a woman who shouldn't exist. Sarah pulls out her phone and scrolls through her photo gallery until she finds what she's looking for, a screenshot from Rachel Morrison's final broadcast. The image quality is poor, captured from an old TV recording, but the hair, the posture, the way the woman holds her left shoulder slightly higher than her right, it all matches. "Emma, I need you to clean this up. Use whatever software you have. Why are you so obsessed with this? It's probably just someone who looks like her." Sarah closes her laptop and stands, pacing to the window of Emma's cluttered apartment. Outside, Seattle's morning drizzle creates intricate patterns on the glass, each droplet catching and distorting the light. She thinks about her father, about the way his hands had trembled when he'd watched Rachel Morrison's final broadcast 5 years ago, about the phone call he'd made immediately afterward, speaking in hushed Mandarin to someone whose voice had carried the weight of authority even through the receiver. Because 3 weeks after Rachel Morrison disappeared, Dad paid off the mortgage on our house. In cash. Emma's fingers freeze over her keyboard. "What?" "I found the bank records when I was helping Mom with taxes last year. A cashier's check for $847,000. No loan, no explanation, just ... money." The apartment falls silent except for the hum of Emma's multiple computer monitors. Sarah watches her sister's reflection in the window, sees the moment when skepticism shifts to concern. "Sarah, you're talking about conspiracy theories. People don't just, don't they?" Sarah turns back to face her sister. "Rachel Morrison was investigating construction companies. Our construction company. She disappears during a live broadcast. And suddenly Dad has enough money to pay off 20 years of debt? Emma's screen flickers as she opens a new program. Okay, let's say you're right. Let's say this is really her. What are you going to do about it? Sarah has been asking herself the same question since she first spotted the reflection. The smart thing would be to let it go, to pretend she never saw the video. Her father's business is thriving now. Her mother finally seems relaxed, no longer lying awake worrying about money. Emma is 2 semesters away from graduating college, debt-free. But Rachel Morrison had been 28 years old when she vanished, the same age Sarah is now. She'd been pursuing a story that mattered, trying to expose corruption that could have hurt people. If she's alive, if she's been hiding for 5 years, there has to be a reason. I'm going to find her, Sarah says. Emma looks up from her screen, and for the first time since Sarah arrived, her expression is serious. The enhancement is going to take a few hours. But Sarah, if you're right about this, if she really is alive and hiding ... have you considered that maybe she's hiding from Dad? The question hangs in the air between them like a challenge. Sarah has considered it. She spent the last 3 sleepless nights considering it. But there's something else she hasn't told Emma yet, something that makes this more than just idle curiosity. Yesterday, she received an anonymous email. No sender, no subject line. Just a single sentence: the Morrison story isn't over. Sarah's phone buzzes against the coffee table, jolting her from the memory. The anonymous email had arrived at 3:47 a.m., sent to her personal Gmail account that she uses for exactly 3 things: online shopping, her gym membership, and staying in touch with college friends. Not the kind of address that shows up in public records or professional directories. Emma, can you trace an email for me? Her sister doesn't look up from the screen where she's running the mall footage through enhancement software. Depends. What kind of trace? Sarah opens her phone and navigates to the message. Reading it again makes her stomach tighten. The timestamp shows it was sent just 4 hours after she'd first watched Emma's video, as if someone had been monitoring her. Online activity. Someone sent me a message about Rachel Morrison. I need to know who. Emma finally turns around, her expression shifting from casual interest to genuine concern. Show me. Sarah hands over her phone. Emma reads the message, her eyebrows drawing together in concentration. This is ... weird. The sender field is completely blank. Not even a fake address. Can you trace it? I can try, but whoever sent this knows what they're doing. They're using some kind of proxy system. Emma's fingers fly across her keyboard, opening multiple terminal windows. This is going to take time. Maybe a lot of time. Sarah moves to the kitchen area of Emma's studio apartment, needing something to do with her hands. She fills the kettle and searches through Emma's collection of tea boxes, settling on chamomile despite knowing it won't calm her racing thoughts. Sarah, Emma says, her voice carefully neutral. Have you told anyone else about the video? About thinking you saw Rachel Morrison? No, why? Because someone knew you were looking into this. The timing of this email isn't a coincidence. The kettle's whistle pierces the air, sharp and insistent. Sarah pours water over the tea bag, watching steam rise from the mug. The apartment feels smaller suddenly, as if the walls are pressing in. There's something else, Sarah says. The night Rachel Morrison disappeared, I was working late at Dad's office. I was still in college then, just helping with bookkeeping. During breaks, Emma pauses her typing. And I remember Dad getting a phone call around midnight. He spoke in Mandarin, but I caught a few words. Something about the reporter, and it's handled. Sarah, that could mean anything. Could it? Sarah takes a sip of tea, the heat burning her tongue. How many reporters was he dealing with? How many reporters were investigating his business? Emma's computer chimes, and she turns back to her screen. The enhancement is processing, but I'm getting some preliminary results. The resolution is still terrible, but I can clean up the contrast. Sarah abandons her tea and hurries to look over Emma's shoulder. The mall footage plays in a small window, but now the image is sharper, the shadows more defined. When the camera pans across the jewelry store, the reflection in the window is clearer. The woman has Rachel Morrison's hair, her build, her distinctive way of walking. But more than that, she's wearing a gray jacket with a specific cut-a blazer with slightly padded shoulders and a narrow lapel. Sarah recognizes it because she's seen it before, in dozens of news broadcasts. That's her jacket, Sarah breathes. The one she wore on her final show. Emma zooms in on the reflection. It's a gray blazer. Half the professional women in Seattle probably own something similar. Look at the buttons. They're gold, arranged in a specific pattern. 2 on each side, but the left side is slightly higher than the right. Emma enhances the image further, and the details become more visible. The button arrangement is exactly as Sarah described. Okay, Emma says slowly. That's actually pretty specific. Sarah's phone buzzes again. Another email, same anonymous sender. This time the message is longer. Stop looking or you'll end up like her. Some stories are meant to stay buried. Emma reads over Sarah's shoulder, her face paling. Sarah, maybe we should. No, Sarah's voice is firm. Someone doesn't want me to find her. That means there's something to find. She walks to Emma's window and stares out at the Seattle skyline. The Space Needle rises in the distance, its familiar silhouette a comfort against the gray sky. Somewhere in this city, Rachel Morrison might be alive, hiding but alive. Emma, I need you to help me figure out where this mall footage was taken. It's the Northgate Mall, I can tell from the store layout. When? Emma checks the video file properties. 3 days ago, Tuesday afternoon, around 2 p.m. Sarah feels a surge of adrenaline. She's still here, still in Seattle. Or it's not her at all, and you're about to get yourself into serious trouble. Sarah turns back to her sister, seeing the worry etched in Emma's features. Emma has always been the cautious one, the one who thinks through consequences before acting. It served her well in her computer science studies, but Sarah has never been good at caution. Emma, what if she's been trying to surface? What if she's been hiding all these years, waiting for the right moment to tell her story? Then why now? Why after 5 years? Sarah considers this. Maybe because enough time has passed. Maybe because whoever made her disappear thinks they're safe. Emma's computer chimes again. The enhancement is complete. She opens the final file, and the image quality is dramatically improved. The woman in the reflection is clearly visible now, and the resemblance to Rachel Morrison is unmistakable. But there's something else. In the enhanced image, Sarah can see that the woman is carrying something, a manila envelope, thick with papers. She's clutching it against her chest like it contains something precious. She has documents, Sarah says. Whatever she's been hiding, she's still carrying the evidence. Emma stares at the screen. If this is really Rachel Morrison, if she's been alive all this time. Sarah, do you understand what this means? Someone made her disappear. Someone with enough power to make a television reporter vanish during a live broadcast. Sarah's phone buzzes a third time. The message is shorter. Now just 2 words. Last warning. But instead of fear, Sarah feels something else entirely. Determination. For 5 years, she's wondered about her father's sudden wealth, about the phone call she overheard, about the reporter who'd been asking uncomfortable questions. Now she has a chance to find answers. Emma, I need you to run facial recognition on every security camera in a 5-mile radius of Northgate Mall. Cross-reference with any image of Rachel Morrison you can find. Sarah, that's going to take however long it takes. And Emma? Sarah grabs her jacket from the back of the chair. If anyone comes asking about what we're doing, you've never heard of Rachel Morrison. Where are you going? Sarah pauses. At the door, her hand on the handle. To Northgate Mall. If she was there 3 days ago, maybe someone remembers her. As Sarah steps into the hallway, she hears Emma calling after her. Sarah, wait. There's something else in the enhancement. Something I think you need to see. But Sarah is already moving, driven by a certainty that feels dangerous and necessary. In equal measure, whatever Emma has discovered can wait. Right now, she has a reporter to find and a 5-year-old mystery to solve. Behind her, Emma's voice echoes in the stairwell. Sarah, she's not alone in that reflection. There's someone following her. Sarah's hand freezes on the stair railing. What did you say? Emma appears in the doorway, laptop clutched against her chest. In the enhanced footage, there's someone else. About 20 feet behind her, trying to stay out of sight. Sarah climbs back up the stairs, her heart hammering. Show me. They crowd around Emma's laptop as she opens the enhanced file. The mall footage plays in slow motion, and this time Sarah sees what her sister means. In the far background of the keyode, jewelry store reflection, barely visible even with the enhancement, a figure moves parallel to the woman they believe is Rachel Morrison. There, Emma points to a shadow that seems to pause when the woman pauses, move when she moves. It's subtle, but it's there. Sarah studies the shadow. The figure appears to be male, wearing dark clothing, maintaining a careful distance. Professional surveillance. He's following her, Sarah whispers. Or protecting her, Emma counters. We don't know the context. Sarah's phone buzzes again. The anonymous sender has sent an image this time, a photograph of Sarah's apartment. Building, taken from street level. The timestamp shows it was captured 15 minutes ago. They know where I live, Sarah says, her voice barely steady. Emma stares at the photo. Sarah, this is getting dangerous. Maybe we should call the police. And tell them what? That I think I saw a dead reporter in a mall security video? That someone's sending me. Anonymous emails. Sarah shakes her head. They'll think I'm crazy. Then maybe we should drop this. Sarah looks at her sister, really looks at her. Emma's face is pale, her usual confidence replaced by genuine fear. Sarah realizes she's been so focused on solving the mystery that she hasn't considered the risk she's putting Emma in. You're right, Sarah says. This is my problem, not yours. She closes the laptop and hands it back to Emma. Delete everything. The enhanced footage, the facial recognition searches, all of it. Sarah, what are you? I'm going to handle this myself. If something happens to me, I don't want you involved. Emma grabs Sarah's arm. You can't be serious. You're going to investigate this alone? I have to. Emma, if Rachel Morrison is alive, if she's been hiding for 5 years, then someone very powerful wanted her gone. Someone who might have killed her if she hadn't disappeared. Sarah moves toward the door. Again, but Emma blocks her path. Then let me help you. We'll be careful. No. Sarah's voice is firm. Look at me, Emma. Really look at me. Emma studies her sister's face, and Sarah sees the moment when understanding dawns. The resemblance between the Chun sisters is strong, but Sarah looks remarkably like their mother did at the same age. The same narrow face, the same determined chin, the same way of holding herself when she's made an irrevocable decision. You're going to do this whether I help or not. Emma says, yes. Emma sighs and steps aside. Then at least take this. She hands Sarah a small device that looks like a USB drive. It's a GPS tracker. Text me if you're in trouble, and I'll know where to find you. Sarah pockets the device. Emma, if something happens, nothing's going to happen. You're going to figure this out, find Rachel Morrison, and prove that our father isn't involved in anything shady. The words hang between them, and Sarah realizes that Emma has been thinking the same thoughts, harboring the same suspicions. Their father's sudden wealth, the timing of Rachel Morrison's disappearance. The phone call Sarah overheard. It all points to a connection they don't want to acknowledge. What if I'm wrong? Sarah asks. What if Dad is involved? Emma's expression softens. Then we'll deal with that when we have to. But right now, we don't know anything for certain. Sarah's phone buzzes one more time. This message is different, longer. More detailed. Rachel Morrison discovered something that could have destroyed multiple families. She chose to disappear rather than publish the story. If you continue investigating, you'll force her to surface, and that will put her life in danger. Walk away now, and everyone stays safe. Sarah shows the message to Emma, who reads it twice before looking up. They're not threatening you, Emma says. They're threatening her. Which means she's definitely alive, and definitely in danger. Sarah considers this. Someone has been protecting Rachel Morrison for 5 years, keeping her hidden, keeping her safe. But from whom and why? Emma, run one more search for me. I want to know everything about the last story Rachel Morrison was working on. Not just the construction company angle everything. Emma opens her laptop reluctantly. This is the last thing I'm doing. After this, you're on your own. Agreed. As Emma's fingers fly across the keyboard, Sarah walks to the window and stares out at the Seattle skyline. The city looks different now, as if she's seeing it through a filter of secrets and hidden dangers. Somewhere out there, Rachel Morrison is alive and in hiding. Somewhere else, the people who made her disappear are watching Sarah's every move. Emma's voice breaks through her thoughts. Sarah, you need to see this. Sarah turns back to the laptop screen. Emma has pulled up archived news reports from 5 years ago, focusing on the weeks leading up to Rachel Morrison's disappearance. Look at this. Emma points to a headline from 3 weeks before the vanishing. Local reporter investigating Citywood construction fraud. Sarah reads the article quickly. Rachel Morrison had been working on a story about a network of construction companies that were allegedly cutting corners on safety inspections, using substandard materials, and bribing city officials to look the other way. The investigation had been ongoing for months, and she was close to exposing the entire operation. Keep reading, Emma says. The next article is from 2 weeks before the disappearance. Reporter receives death threats over construction investigation. Sarah's blood runs cold. She was being threatened. And look at this. Emma opens another file. The company she was investigating, they're all connected. Same investors, same board members, same lawyers. Sarah scans the list of names, and her heart stops. There, halfway down the page, is her father's company, Shun Construction and Development. But it's not just listed as one of the companies under investigation. According to the article, Shun Construction was the primary contractor for a series of apartment buildings that had been flagged for serious safety violations. Buildings that had been approved despite failing multiple inspections. Emma, Sarah whispers. How many people live in those buildings? Emma clicks through to property records. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Sarah stares at the screen, understanding dawning with horrible clarity. Rachel Morrison hadn't just been investigating financial corruption, she'd been investigating safety violations that could have killed people. Buildings that could collapse, fires that could spread unchecked, gas leaks that could explode. She wasn't just trying to expose fraud, Sarah says. She was trying to save lives, Emma nods grimly. And someone made her disappear before she could publish the story. Sarah's phone buzzes with a new message. You've seen enough. Stop now, or the next person to disappear will be you. But Sarah is already moving, grabbing her jacket and heading for the door. She has a mall to visit, a reporter to find, and a 5-year-old cover-up to expose. The stakes are higher than she'd imagined, but that only makes the truth more important. Sarah, wait, Emma calls after her. There's one more thing. The buildings Rachel was investigating, they're scheduled for demolition next week. Someone's trying to destroy the evidence. The demolition notice changes everything. Sarah sits in her car outside Northgate Mall, staring at the property records Emma forwarded to her phone. 6 apartment buildings, all constructed by Chen Construction between 2018 and 2019. All scheduled for demolition starting Monday. In 4 days, any physical evidence of safety violations will be reduced to rubble. The mall's parking lot is half empty on this Thursday afternoon. Sarah studies the building's facade, noting the security cameras positioned at every entrance. If Rachel Morrison was here 3 days ago, there might be other footage, clearer images that could help her track down the missing reporter. Her phone rings. Emma's name appears on the screen. Sarah, I've been thinking about those buildings. The demolition permits were filed 6 months ago, but the original safety investigation was never completed. What do you mean? Rachel Morrison's investigation was ongoing when she disappeared. The city inspector who was supposed to file the final report quit 2 weeks after she vanished. His replacement cleared all the buildings for occupancy. Sarah feels a chill. Someone buried the investigation, and now they're destroying the evidence. Sarah, if those buildings are unsafe, if people are living in them right now, I know. Sarah cuts her off. Emma, I need you to find out who's been living in those buildings. Get me names, contact information, anything you can find. Why? Because if Rachel Morrison is planning to surface, if she's ready to tell her story, she's going to need proof, and those buildings are the proof. Sarah ends the call and steps out of her car. The mall's interior is a study in faded grandeur marble floors, worn smooth by decades of foot traffic. Storefronts with optimistic window displays trying to mask the reality of declining retail. She heads directly to the security office, a plan forming in her mind. The security guard at the information desk looks barely old enough to drive. His name tag reads Tyler, and he's absorbed in a game on his phone. Excuse me, Sarah says, pulling out her wallet. I'm looking for someone who might have been here on Tuesday. A woman in her 30s, reddish hair, wearing a gray blazer. Tyler glances up, unimpressed. Lady, do you know how many people come through here? Sarah places a $50 bill on the counter. She would have been near Morrison's Jewelers around 2 p.m., probably seemed nervous like she was trying to avoid being seen. Tyler's attitude shifts immediately. He pockets the money and leans closer. You a cop? Private investigator, Sarah lies smoothly. The woman is a witness in a case I'm working. Hang on. Tyler disappears into the back office, returning with a slightly older man whose supervisor badge reads Marcus. Tyler says you're looking for someone specific, Marcus says, his tone professional but curious. Sarah repeats her description, adding details from the enhanced footage. She was carrying a manila envelope, thick with papers. She seemed to be meeting someone. Marcus nods slowly. I remember her. Stood out because she kept checking over her shoulder, like she thought someone was following her. Sarah's pulse quickens. Did you see who she was meeting? That's the weird part. She never actually met anyone. She went to the jewelry store, looked around for maybe 10 minutes, then left through the north exit. Did she buy anything? Not from what I could tell. But she did talk to Mrs. Morrison, the store owner. They seemed to know each other. Sarah feels a jolt of recognition. Morrison? The jewelry store owner's name is Morrison? Yeah, Helen Morrison. She's owned that store for like 15 years. Sarah's mind races. Rachel Morrison disappears, and 5 years later she's spotted at a jewelry store owned by someone with the same last name. It can't be a coincidence. Is Mrs. Morrison here today? Marcus checks his watch. Should be. The store's open until 9. Sarah thanks him and heads toward Morrison's Jewelers, her thoughts spinning. Helen Morrison could be a relative, a sister, a cousin, someone who's been helping Rachel stay hidden. Or it could be another coincidence in a case that's already full of them. The jewelry store is small and elegant, with display cases full of engagement rings and watches. A woman in her 50s stands behind the counter, her graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looks up as Sarah enters, and her smile is warm but professional. "Can I help you find something special?" "Actually, I'm looking for information about a woman who visited your store on Tuesday." Reddish hair, gray blazer, carrying a manila envelope. Helen Morrison's expression doesn't change, but Sarah notices her hands tighten slightly on the counter. "I'm sorry, I don't recall anyone like that." She would have stood out. She seemed nervous, like she was trying to avoid being seen. "I see hundreds of customers every week. It's hard to remember specific individuals." Sarah studies the woman's face. Helen Morrison is lying, but she's doing it carefully, maintaining eye contact and keeping her voice steady. This is someone who's had practice hiding the truth. "Mrs. Morrison, I'm not with the police. I'm just trying to find someone who might be in trouble. I'm afraid I can't help you." Sarah pulls out her phone and shows Helen the enhanced mall footage. "This is her. The security cameras caught her reflection in your window." Helen glances at the phone screen, and for just a moment, her composure cracks. Sarah sees recognition flash in her eyes before the professional mask slides back into place. "I'm sorry, but I really don't remember this person." Sarah pockets her phone and places a business card on the counter, Emma's card from her freelance web design work, but with Sarah's phone number written on the back. "If you remember anything, please call me. It's important." As Sarah turns to leave, Helen speaks again. "Miss, can I ask why you're looking for this woman?" Sarah pauses at the door. "Because I think she's been hiding from something terrible for 5 years. And I think she's running out of time." Helen Morrison's face goes pale. Running out of time for what? To tell the truth before someone silences her permanently. Sarah leaves the store and finds a bench in the mall's central corridor, positioning herself where she can watch the jewelry store's entrance. She doesn't have to wait long. Within 10 minutes, Helen Morrison flips the store's sign to closed and locks the front door. She pulls out her phone and makes a call, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Sarah can't hear the conversation, but she can see Helen's body language, the way she keeps glancing around, the protective way she hunches over her phone. This is someone passing along a warning. When Helen ends the call, she gathers her purse and coat and heads for the mall's north exit, the same exit the security guard said the mysterious woman had used on Tuesday. Sarah follows at a distance, keeping Helen in sight as they move through the parking lot. Helen gets into a silver Honda Civic and pulls out of the lot, heading north on Aurora Avenue. Traffic is light, making it easy for Sarah to follow without getting too close. Helen drives with purpose, taking several turns that lead away from the main commercial district and into a residential area of older homes and tree-lined streets. After 15 minutes, Helen turns into the driveway of a modest 2-story house, painted sage green with white trim. The yard is well maintained, with flower beds that show signs of recent care despite the late season. Sarah parks across the street and watches as Helen hurries to the front door. Before she can knock, the door opens, and Sarah's breath catches. The woman who answers is unmistakably Rachel Morrison. Older than in her news photos, her hair shorter and darker, but definitely the same person. She's wearing jeans and a sweater, looking more relaxed than Sarah has ever seen her in archived footage. The two women embrace briefly, then Helen gestures urgently toward the street. Rachel follows her gaze, and for a moment, Sarah thinks she's been spotted. But Rachel is looking at something else, a dark sedan parked 2 blocks away, its occupants invisible behind tinted windows. Rachel says something to Helen, and both women quickly disappear inside the house. The front door closes and curtains are drawn across the windows. Sarah sits in her car, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She's found Rachel Morrison. After 5 years, The missing reporter is alive and living in a quiet Seattle neighborhood under the protection of someone who shares her name. But she's not alone. The dark sedan Sarah noticed is still there, and now she can see a second vehicle parked on the opposite end of the street. Professional surveillance, just like the figure in the mall footage. Sarah's phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Drive away now. Don't look back. If you approach the house, both women will be dead within the hour. But as Sarah stares at the message, she notices something else. The house where Rachel Morrison is hiding has a small sign in the front yard, partially obscured by a rosebush. Chun Construction Home Renovation Specialists. Her father's company logo stares back at her from the very house where the reporter who was investigating him has been hiding for 5 years. Sarah's hands shake as she stares at the construction sign. Her father's company logo, the distinctive interlocking C design she's seen on business cards and work trucks her entire life, marks the house where Rachel Morrison has been hiding. The implications crash over her like a wave. Either her father has been protecting the reporter who was investigating him, or this is the most elaborate trap ever conceived. Her phone buzzes again. The same unknown number. Your father never wanted to hurt anyone. He's been keeping her safe. Drive away before you compromise everything. Sarah's mind races. The anonymous messages, the surveillance, the careful choreography of Rachel's hiding place. It all points to an operation that's been running for 5 years. But who's running it? She starts her car and drives around the block, parking on a side street where she can still see the house, but is less visible to the watchers. The dark sedan hasn't moved, and neither has the second vehicle. Professional surveillance teams don't just watch randomly. They're protecting something valuable. Or preventing something dangerous. Sarah pulls out her phone and calls Emma. Did you find anything about the building residents? Sarah asks without preamble. I'm working on it, but Sarah, there's something else. I've been digging into Helen Morrison's background. What kind of background? She's not just a jewelry store owner. She used to work for the Seattle Times, city desk reporter, worked there for 12 years before she opened the store. Sarah feels another piece click into place. She's a journalist, like Rachel was a journalist. She quit the newspaper business in 2019, right around the time Rachel Morrison disappeared. Emma, I found her. I found Rachel Morrison. Silence on the other end of the line. Then, what do you mean you found her? I followed Helen Morrison from the mall. She led me to a house where Rachel is hiding. Emma, Dad's company renovated the house. There's a sign in the yard. Sarah, that doesn't make sense. Why would Dad be protecting someone who is investigating him? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Sarah ends the call and studies the house. It's a typical Seattle bungalow, probably built in the 1920s, with the kind of careful restoration that suggests significant investment. The yard is well maintained, the paint is fresh, and the windows have been recently replaced with energy-efficient models. This isn't a hiding place, it's a home. Someone has put time and money into making Rachel Morrison comfortable for the long term. A movement in the front window catches Sarah's attention. The curtain shifts slightly, and she glimpses a figure peering out at the street. It's Rachel, scanning the area with the practiced eye of someone who's been watching for threats for 5 years. Sarah makes a decision. She gets out of her car and walks directly toward the house, ignoring the text messages that immediately begin flooding her phone. If her father is protecting Rachel Morrison, then she has a right to know why. If he's not, then Rachel needs to know she's been found. The dark sedan's engine starts as Sarah approaches the front door. She can see the driver speaking into a radio, coordinating with someone. But they're not moving to intercept her. They're maintaining their distance, watching. Sarah rings the doorbell. The silence that follows stretches for nearly a minute. Then she hears footsteps, muffled conversation, and the sound of multiple locks being disengaged. The door opens a crack, secured by a chain. Helen Morrison's face appears in the gap, her expression tense. "You can't be here," Helen says. "I need to talk to Rachel. About the construction investigation, about my father." Helen's eyes widen. "Your father?" "David Chen. Chun Construction." Rachel was investigating his company when she disappeared. The door closes, and Sarah hears urgent whispering from inside. When it opens again, the chain is gone, and Helen gestures for her to enter quickly. "You have 5 minutes," Helen says. "Then you have to leave and never come back." Sarah steps into a living room that's been transformed into a combination workspace and fortress. The windows are covered with heavy curtains, and she can see the outlines of security cameras mounted in the corners. A large desk dominates one wall, covered with manila folders, photographs, and what appears to be surveillance equipment. Rachel Morrison sits at the desk, turned to face Sarah. She's older than in her news photos, with lines around her eyes that speak of years of stress and sleepless nights. But her gaze is sharp, intelligent, and wary. "You're David Chun's daughter," Rachel says. "It's not a question." "Yes, Sarah Chun. I've been looking for you." "Why?" Sarah glances around the room, taking in the evidence of a 5-year investigation. "Because I think my father has been protecting you. And I want to know why." Rachel exchanges a look with Helen, who nods almost imperceptibly. "Sit down," Rachel says. "But understand that what I'm about to tell you could get all of us killed." Sarah takes a seat on the couch, her heart pounding. "I'm listening." 5 years ago, I was investigating a construction fraud ring. Companies were cutting corners on safety inspections, using substandard materials, bribing city officials. It was a big story, potentially huge. My father's company was part of it? Yes, but not the way you think. Rachel pulls out a thick folder and sets it on the coffee table. David Chun was being blackmailed. The fraud ring was led by a group of investors who had leverage over multiple construction companies. They forced your father to participate by threatening your family. Sarah's blood runs cold. Threatening us how? They knew your mother's immigration status was complicated. They knew Emma was struggling with depression in college. They knew your father had gambling debts from years earlier. They had files on all of you. Helen speaks up. The same group that threatened David also threatened me. They wanted me to quit investigating, to bury the story. But you didn't quit, Sarah says to Rachel. No, but I realized that publishing the story would destroy innocent people, along with the guilty ones. Your father, 6 other contractors, dozens of employees, they were all victims, not perpetrators. Rachel opens the folder and pulls out a photograph. It shows a man in his 50s, well-dressed, getting out of an expensive car. This is Markus Volkov. He runs the operation. Russian mob connections, legitimate business fronts, political protection. He's been running construction fraud schemes across the Pacific Northwest for over a decade. So you decided to disappear instead of exposing him? I decided to disappear so I could build a case against him without putting innocent people at risk. Your father has been helping me, providing information about Volkov's operation while keeping me safe. Sarah stares at the photograph. The anonymous messages, the surveillance. That's all, Dad? Your father coordinates with a small group of people who want to see Volkov brought down. Helen, myself, a few others. We've been gathering evidence for 5 years. Evidence of what? Rachel pulls out another folder, this one much thicker. Murder. Volkov doesn't just threaten people, he kills them. We have proof that he's responsible for at least 6 deaths, including the city inspector who was supposed to investigate the building violations. Sarah's mind reels. The inspector who quit, he didn't quit. He was murdered. Car accident. Made to look like he lost control on a rainy night, but we have evidence that his brake lines were cut. Helen walks to the window and peers through. The curtains. We're running out of time. The buildings are scheduled for demolition Monday. Once they're gone, the physical evidence disappears. But you have other evidence, Sarah says. We have documents, photographs, financial records. But without the buildings, we can't prove the safety violations. We can't prove that Volkov forced contractors to use substandard materials. Rachel stands and walks to a safe in the corner of the room. She enters a combination and pulls out a small digital drive. This contains everything we've gathered. 5 years of investigation, hundreds of hours of surveillance, financial records that trace back to Volkov's operation. Why are you showing me this? Because your father is in danger. Volkov has become suspicious. He thinks David might be working against him. Sarah's phone buzzes. Emma's name appears on the screen. Sarah, where are you? Someone just broke into Dad's office. The police are there, and they're asking questions about Rachel Morrison. The room falls silent. Rachel and Helen exchange a look of pure terror. They've made their move, Rachel whispers. We're out of time. Outside, Sarah can hear car doors slamming and footsteps on the front walk. The surveillance teams are closing in, but she can't tell if they're there to protect or to eliminate. There's a back exit, Helen says, moving toward the rear of the house. We have 30 seconds before they surround the building, but Rachel doesn't move. She's staring at the digital drive in her hand, and Sarah can see the weight of 5 years of investigation, 5 years of hiding, 5 years of waiting for justice. I'm done running, Rachel says quietly. It's time to tell the truth. The sound of footsteps on the front porch grows louder, accompanied by the crackle of radio static. Sarah counts at least 3 distinct voices, maybe more. Through the heavy curtains, she can see shadows moving across the windows. Rachel, we have to go, Helen urges, her hand on the back door handle. But Rachel Morrison remains seated, the digital drive clutched in her palm. 5 years, Helen. 5 years of hiding. While Volkov gets richer and more people get hurt. And you'll be dead in 5 minutes if we don't move now. Sarah's phone rings. Her father's name appears on the screen, and she answers without thinking. Sarah, where are you? David Chun's voice is strained, urgent. Someone broke into the office. They took files, computers, everything related to the Morrison investigation. Dad, I'm with her. I'm with Rachel Morrison. Silence on the other end. Then, Sarah, you need to get out of there, now. Why have you been protecting her? Because it was the right thing to do. Because she was trying to save lives, and I was part of the problem. The footsteps stop at the front door. Sarah can hear muffled voices, someone giving orders. Dad, who's at the house? Are these your people? No, my people are in the dark sedan across the street. If someone's at the door, they're not ours. Rachel stands abruptly, decision made. Helen, start the car. Sarah, call your father back and tell him we're going to the television station. Tell him to meet us there with whatever evidence he has. The TV station? Sarah asks. Channel 7, where this all started. Rachel moves to the desk and grabs a leather messenger bag, stuffing it with files and photographs. I'm going to finish what I started 5 years ago. A loud knock echoes through. The house, Seattle police, open up, Helen freezes. They're not police. Real police would have announced themselves from the street. Rachel looks at Sarah. Your father's people, how many are there? I don't know. I saw 2 cars. That's not enough. Rachel pulls out her phone and makes a call. It's me. We're blown. I need extraction from the safe house, and I need security. At Channel 7 in 1 hour. She listens to the response, then nods grimly. I understand the risks. Do it anyway. The knocking becomes pounding. Someone is testing the door's strength. Back exit, Helen says. Now. They move through the house quickly. Rachel grabbing the messenger bag and the digital drive. The back door opens onto a small yard surrounded by a 6-foot fence. Helen's car is parked in the alley beyond. As they cross the yard, Sarah hears the front door splinter. Voices flood into the house. At least 4 men, moving with military precision. "There," one of them shouts. "Back door's open." Helen starts the car as Sarah and Rachel dive into the back seat. The engine roars to life, and they speed down the alley, turning onto a side street just as armed figures emerge from the backyard. "They're following us," Sarah says, looking out the rear window. A black SUV has pulled out of the alley and is closing the distance. Helen takes a sharp right, tires squealing. "Hold on." She knows these streets, Sarah realizes. This isn't panic. Driving, it's an escape route they've practiced. Helen's Honda weaves through residential streets, taking advantage of its smaller size to navigate spaces the SUV can't follow. After 10 minutes of aggressive driving, they emerge onto Aurora Avenue, blending into traffic. "Did we lose them?" Rachel asks. Sarah checks the mirrors. "I think so." Her phone rings. Emma's name. "Sarah, where are you?" "Dad's on his way to Channel 7. He says to tell you that Volkov knows everything. He's making his move tonight." "What do you mean?" "The buildings. They're not waiting until Monday. The demolition crews are mobilizing now. They're going to destroy the evidence tonight." Sarah looks at Rachel, who's been listening to the conversation. "We need to get to those buildings first." "No," Rachel says firmly. "We need to get to the television station. If we can broadcast the story, expose Volkov publicly, then destroying the buildings won't matter. But without the physical evidence, we have enough. Financial records, surveillance footage, testimony from your father and the other contractors. It's enough to start a federal investigation." Helen glances in the rearview mirror. "There's something else. I've been in contact with FBI agents who've been investigating Volkov's operation. They're ready to move if we can provide them with the evidence." "FBI?" Sarah asks. "The construction fraud is just the tip of the iceberg," Rachel explains. "Volkov's operation includes money laundering, human trafficking, and murder. The FBI has been watching him for years, but they needed someone on the inside. Someone like my father. Your father's been wearing a wire for 6 months. Every conversation with Volkov, every meeting, every threat, it's all been recorded." Sarah's phone buzzes with a text from her father. "Channel 7 is compromised. Volkov has people there. Go to Channel 12 instead. Ask for Sarah Kim, she's expecting you." Rachel reads the message over Sarah's shoulder. "Change of plans. Helen, Channel 12." As they drive toward the television station, Sarah tries to process everything she's learned. Her father isn't just protecting Rachel Morrison, he's been working undercover for the FBI, gathering evidence against a criminal organization that's been operating in Seattle for over a decade. "Rachel, why didn't you just go to the FBI 5 years ago?" "Because Volkov had people in the police department, possibly in the FBI. I couldn't trust anyone. Going into hiding was the only way to stay alive long enough to build an airtight case." They pull into the parking lot of Channel 12, a smaller television station housed in a converted warehouse. The building looks deserted except for a few cars in the employee parking area. "This feels like a trap," Helen says. Rachel checks her phone. "My contact says the building is secure. They've cleared the studio and they have a camera crew standing by." As they approach the entrance, Sarah notices a familiar figure waiting by the door, her father, looking older and more tired than she's ever seen him. Dad, David Chun, embraces his daughter, and Sarah can feel the tension in his shoulders, the weight of 5 years of secrets. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of it." "Dad, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was trying to protect you." "The less you knew, the safer you were." A woman emerges from the building, Asian, mid-30s, wearing a business suit and carrying A tablet, Ms. Morrison? I'm Sarah Kim, producer for Channel 12. We're ready for you. Rachel nods. How much time do we have? We can break into regular programming in 15 minutes. But I need to warn you, once we go live, there's no going back. If half of what you've told me is true, this story will change everything. It's all true, Rachel says. And it's time the city knew. As they enter the building, Sarah's phone buzzes with one final message from the anonymous sender. Last chance. Walk away now, or everyone you love will pay the price. But Sarah deletes the message without reading it to the others. After 5 years of hiding, 5 years of lies, 5 years of innocent people living in dangerous buildings, it's time for the truth to come out, even if it destroys everything. Inside the television station, Rachel Morrison sits in front of the camera for the first time in 5 years, and Sarah realizes that the story is just beginning. The television studio feels unnaturally quiet as the crew makes final adjustments to the cameras and lighting. Rachel Morrison sits in the anchor chair, her hands folded calmly in her lap, but Sarah can see the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes dart to the exits. 2 minutes to air, Sarah Kim announces, her voice cutting through the silence. David Chun stands near the back of the studio, a manila envelope clutched in his hands. Inside, Sarah knows, are 5 years' worth of wire recordings, financial documents, and photographs that will either bring down Marcus Volkov or get them all killed. Dad, Sarah approaches him. Are you sure about this? I should have done this years ago, he says. I thought I was protecting our family by staying quiet, but I was just enabling him to hurt more people. Sarah's phone buzzes. Emma's name appears on the screen. Sarah, the demolition crews are at the buildings. They're not waiting for morning. They're starting now. Through the studio windows, Sarah can see the Seattle skyline. Somewhere out there, evidence is being destroyed, and Volkov's people are scrambling to contain the damage. 1 minute, Sarah Kim calls out. Rachel looks directly into the camera, and Sarah sees something she recognizes from the old news. Broadcasts the focused intensity of a journalist who's found the story of a lifetime. Rachel, Sarah Kim says, once we go live, we can't stop. Are you ready? I've been ready for 5 years. The studio lights brighten, and the red recording light flicks on. Sarah watches from the control room as Rachel Morrison returns to television for the first time since her disappearance. Good evening. I'm Rachel Morrison, and for the past 5 years, I've been presumed dead. Tonight, I'm here to tell you why I had to disappear, and why I'm choosing to surface now. Rachel pauses, letting the weight of her words settle. 5 years ago, I was investigating a construction fraud ring that was putting thousands of Seattle residents at risk. Buildings were being constructed with substandard materials. Safety inspections were being falsified, and city officials were being bribed to look the other way. Sarah watches her father's face. He's pale, but his expression is resolute. The night I disappeared, I received a phone call. A man told me that if I published my story, 3 families would be murdered. Not threatened, murdered. He gave me names, addresses, photographs of children walking to school. Rachel holds up a photograph. This is Marcus Volkov, the man who made that call. For the past decade, he's been running a criminal organization that extends far beyond construction fraud. The studio phone rings. Sarah Kim answers it, her face growing pale as she listens. Rachel, she says, covering the mouthpiece. We need to cut to commercial. The station manager says we're getting pressure from. No, Rachel says firmly. We keep going. She turns back to the camera. Mr. Volkov, I know you're watching. I know you have people trying to shut down this broadcast, but it's too late. The evidence has already been delivered to federal authorities. David Chun steps forward into the camera frame. My name is David Chun. I own Chun Construction, and for the past 6 months, I've been working with the FBI to gather evidence against Marcus Volkov and his organization. Sarah's heart pounds as she watches her father confess on live television. Volkov forced me to participate in his fraud scheme by threatening my family. But with the help of Rachel Morrison and federal agents, we've been documenting his crimes. David opens the manila envelope and pulls out a stack of photographs. These are images from inside the apartment buildings Volkov forced us to construct with substandard materials. Buildings that are scheduled for demolition tonight to destroy the evidence. The studio door bursts open. 3 men in expensive suits enter, flanked by building security. Sarah recognizes the man in the center from Rachel's photograph, Marcus. Volkov himself. "Cut the cameras," Volkov says, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. But Sarah Kim shakes her head. "This is a live broadcast." "We're not cutting anything." Volkov's expression darkens. "Ms. Morrison, you've caused me considerable trouble. I thought we had an understanding." "We did," Rachel says, never taking her eyes off the camera. "You threatened to kill innocent people, and I chose to disappear rather than put them at risk. But I never agreed to stay silent forever." One of Volkov's men moves toward the camera, but David Chun blocks his path. "You're too late," David says. "The FBI has everything. Financial records, wire recordings, surveillance footage. It's over." Volkov smiles, but there's no warmth in it. "Mr. Chun, you seem to forget that I have resources you can't imagine. Federal agents can be bought, evidence can be destroyed, witnesses can disappear permanently." "Not all of them," Rachel says. The studio monitor flickers, and suddenly the screen splits. On one side, Rachel continues her broadcast. On the other, a live feed appears from one of the apartment buildings Volkov constructed. "Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at live footage from the Riverside Apartments, constructed by Chun Construction, under duress from Marcus Volkov's organization. What you're seeing is the demolition that's happening right now at 10:30 p.m. on a Thursday night, with residents still inside," Sarah gasps. On the screen, she can see people at windows, some still in their apartments, others gathered in the parking lot, looking confused and frightened. "The demolition crews were told the buildings were empty," Rachel continues. "But as you can see, they're not." Volkov's composure finally cracks. "Cut the feed. Cut it now." But the broadcast continues. The split screen shows the apartment building on one side and Rachel in the studio on the other. The contrast is stark. Desperate residents being evacuated, while Rachel calmly presents evidence of the corruption that put them in danger. "This is Sarah Kim, Channel 12 News," the producer says, stepping into the camera frame. "What you're witnessing is the culmination of a 5-year investigation into municipal corruption, construction fraud, and organized crime." Sarah's phone buzzes with a text from Emma. "FBI just arrived at the buildings. They're stopping the demolition and arresting the crew supervisors." She shows the message to her father, who nods grimly. "Mr. Volkov," Rachel addresses the man directly, "you're watching your empire collapse in real time. The buildings you tried to destroy are now crime scenes. The officials you bribed are being arrested. The contractors you blackmailed are testifying against you." Volkov takes a step toward the anchor desk, but more security guards have appeared. Legitimate building security, not his people. "You think this ends tonight?" Volkov asks. "I've been building this organization for 20 years. One broadcast won't destroy it." "You're right," Rachel says. "It won't. But it will start the process." The studio monitor flickers again, and a new image appears. FBI agents leading officials out of City Hall in handcuffs. "And apparently," Rachel adds, "the process is already well underway." Sarah watches in amazement as 5 years of careful planning unfolds in real time. This isn't just a news broadcast, it's a coordinated operation designed to expose and dismantle Volkov's entire network. But as she looks at Volkov's face, she sees something that chills her. He's not defeated. He's calculating, planning his next move. Ms. Morrison, Volkov says quietly, you've won tonight. But this isn't over. There are people you care about. People who aren't under FBI protection. He looks directly at Sarah. Your sister, for instance. Emma, isn't it? Computer. Science student. Lives alone in that apartment on Capitol Hill. Sarah's blood runs cold. If you touch her. I don't make threats, Volkov says. I make promises. But before he can say more, the studio doors open again. This time, it's FBI agents in tactical gear, weapons drawn. Marcus Volkov, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and murder, the lead agent announces. As they move to arrest him, Volkov looks directly into the camera one last time. This broadcast was supposed to be about truth, he says. But the truth is that this city runs on corruption, and I'm just the most successful practitioner. Remove me, and someone else will take my place. The agents lead him away, but his words hang in the air like a threat. Rachel turns back to the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've witnessed tonight is just the beginning. Over the next several days, federal agents will be making arrests, seizing assets, and investigating every aspect of this criminal organization. She pauses. And Sarah can see the weight of 5 years of hiding, 5 years of waiting, finally lifting from her shoulders. But more importantly, the residents of 6 apartment buildings will be relocated to safe housing while structural engineers assess the damage. No one will be hurt because of what we've exposed tonight. The broadcast continues for another 20 minutes with Rachel presenting evidence, her father detailing his undercover work, and federal agents providing updates on the ongoing arrests. When it's finally over, when the cameras stop rolling and the studio lights dim, Sarah realizes that her life has changed forever. Her father is a hero, but he's also a target. Rachel Morrison is alive, but she's still in danger. And somewhere in the city, Marcus Volkov's organization is regrouping, planning their next move. Sarah, Rachel says, removing her microphone, you need to get to your sister, now. Sarah's hands shake as she tries to call Emma. The phone rings once, twice, then goes to voicemail. She tries again with the same result. She's not answering, Sarah says, panic rising in her voice. David Chun is already moving toward the exit. I'm driving. Dad, you can't. You're a target now too. Emma is my daughter. I'm not letting anything happen to her. Rachel Morrison removes her earpiece and stands. The FBI will provide protection, but we need to move fast. Volkov's people are already regrouping. As they rush through the television station's corridors, Sarah tries Emma's number again. This time, it rings several times before a voice answers, but it's not Emma. Sarah Chun? Who is this? Where's my sister? Your sister is safe. For now, but her safety depends on your cooperation. Sarah stops walking, her blood turning to ice. What do you want? Meet me at the Riverside Apartments. Building C, Apartment 4B. Come alone, or Emma dies. The line goes dead. What? David asks, seeing Sarah's expression. They have Emma. They want me to meet them at one of the buildings. Rachel grabs Sarah's arm. It's a trap. They're using her as bait. I don't care. She's my sister. Sarah, think about this, David says. If you go there alone, you're both dead. If we call the FBI, they said come alone. If I bring anyone else, they'll kill her. Through the station's glass doors, Sarah can see FBI agents securing the perimeter. The parking lot is full of federal vehicles, and agents are interviewing staff members about the broadcast. There has to be another way, Rachel says. Sarah looks at her father, then at Rachel. There is. Dad, you go with the FBI. Make sure they understand that Emma is being held hostage. Rachel, you need to get to safety. What are you going to do? I'm going to save my sister. Before either of them can protest, Sarah pushes through the doors and runs toward her car. Behind her, she can hear David shouting her name, but she doesn't stop. The drive to the Riverside Apartments takes 15 minutes through downtown Seattle. Sarah's mind races as she navigates the empty streets, trying to formulate a plan that doesn't end with both her and Emma dead. The apartment complex is a maze of identical buildings, constructed cheaply and quickly. Sarah can see the evidence of substandard construction that Rachel had been investigating: walls that don't align properly, windows that don't fit their frames, concrete that's already cracking after just a few years. Building C is at the center of the complex, surrounded by construction equipment and the debris from the aborted demolition. The FBI has cleared the area, but Sarah can see that not all the residents have been evacuated. Lights are still on in several windows, and she can hear voices from inside the building. Apartment 4B is on the 4th floor. Sarah takes the stairs, her footsteps echoing in the empty stairwell. The building feels unstable, as if it might collapse at any moment. She understands now why Rachel had been so desperate to expose the truth. People are living in structures that could kill them. The door to 4 Bites is slightly ajar. Sarah pushes it open and steps inside. The apartment is small and sparsely furnished, but it's not empty. Emma sits in a chair in the center of the living room, her hands zip-tied behind her back. She's conscious but clearly frightened. "Emma." "Sarah, don't," Emma starts to say, but a man emerges from the kitchen and presses a gun to her head. "Miss Chun, thank you for coming." Sarah recognizes him as one of the men who had been with Volkov at the television station. He's younger than she expected, maybe 30, with the kind of professional demeanor that suggests military training. "Let her go. You have me now." "I'm afraid it's not that simple. You see, tonight's broadcast created a significant problem for us. Mr. Volkov is in federal custody. Our operations are being raided, and millions of dollars in assets are being seized." The man keeps the gun trained on Emma while he talks. "But there's still a way to salvage this situation. Your father has been wearing a wire for 6 months. Those recordings are the key evidence in the federal case. You want me to destroy the recordings? I want you to convince your father to recant his testimony, to claim that he was coerced by the FBI, that his wire recordings were fabricated." Sarah stares at him. "That's insane. No one would believe that. You'd be surprised how malleable truth can be when it's presented correctly. Your father recants, claims he was forced to lie, and suddenly the federal case becomes much weaker. And if he doesn't," the man presses the gun harder against Emma's head, "then you both die, and he loses both daughters in one night. I imagine that would be quite persuasive." Sarah's mind races. There has to be a way out of this, some option. That doesn't involve sacrificing the truth or her sister's life. "How do I know you'll let us go if my father cooperates?" "You don't, but you know what happens if he doesn't." Sarah looks at Emma, trying to communicate silently. Her sister's eyes are wide with fear, but Sarah can see something else there: determination. Emma is trying to tell her something. "Can I call him?" Sarah asks. "Of course, but put it on speaker. I want to hear the conversation." Sarah pulls out her phone and dials her father's number. He answers on the first ring. "Sarah, where are you?" "The FBI is looking for you." "Dad, I'm with Emma. We're both safe, but I need you to listen carefully." "Sarah, what's going on?" "The man holding us wants you to recant your testimony. He wants you to claim that the FBI coerced you, that the wire recordings are fake." Silence on the other end. Then, "Sarah, you know I can't do that. Those recordings are evidence of murder, of crimes that have hurt innocent people. Dad, they're going to kill us if you don't cooperate." "Put me on speaker," the gunman says. Sarah adjusts the phone. "Dad, you're on speaker." "Mr. Chun," the gunman says, "your daughter is correct. You have exactly 1 hour to contact the FBI and recant your testimony. If you don't, both your daughters will die." David Chun's voice is steady when he responds. I understand the situation, but I need proof that they're alive. Emma, the gunman says, say something to your father. Emma looks directly at Sarah as she speaks. Dad, I'm okay. We're in the apartment where you did the electrical work last month. The one where you had to replace all the wiring because it was installed incorrectly. Sarah's eyes widen. Emma is giving their father information about their location, but she's also communicating something else. The electrical work, Sarah remembers her father mentioning that the wiring in these buildings was so poorly installed that it was a fire hazard. I understand, David says. Emma, stay strong. Sarah, I love you both. The line goes dead. The gunman checks his watch. 59 minutes. Sarah looks around the apartment, trying to spot the electrical outlets and switches. If the wiring is as unstable as Emma suggested, maybe. There's a way to create a distraction. Can I get Emma some water? Sarah asks. She looks dehydrated. Fine, but don't try anything clever. Sarah walks to the kitchen, passing a wall outlet that's slightly askew. She can see scorch marks around the edges, evidence of electrical problems. In the kitchen, she fills a glass with water and palms a metal knife from the counter. As she walks back to Emma, Sarah pretends to stumble, dropping the glass. Water splashes across the floor, and in the confusion, she jams the knife into the tube. Loose electrical outlet. The apartment's lights flicker and go out. In the darkness, Sarah hears the gunman curse and Emma's chair topple over. Sparks fly from the outlet, and Sarah can smell burning insulation. Emma, stay down! Sarah shouts. She tackles the gunman in the darkness, and they struggle for control of the weapon. A shot fires, the sound deafening in the small space. Sarah doesn't know if anyone is hit, but she keeps fighting, driven by desperation and the knowledge that Emma's life depends on her. The apartment door bursts open, and flashlight beams cut through the darkness. FBI, drop your weapons. The gunman releases his grip on the pistol, and Sarah rolls away. In the beam of the flashlights, she can see Emma on the floor, conscious, but shaken. Sarah, Emma calls out. Are you hurt? I'm okay, are you? I'm fine. The FBI agents secure the gunman and help Emma to her feet, cutting her restraints. As they escort everyone from the building, Sarah realizes that the electrical fire she started is spreading through the walls. The building will have to be evacuated completely. Good thinking, one of the agents says to Sarah. Using the faulty wiring as a distraction. Outside, Sarah sees her father waiting with more FBI agents. He embraces both daughters, and for a moment, Sarah feels like the nightmare might be over. But as they walk toward the federal vehicles, she notices something that makes her blood run cold. The other buildings in the complex are dark, their residents evacuated. But in the windows of the surrounding neighborhood, lights are on, and people are watching. Too many people. Too many watchers. Dad, Sarah says quietly, we're not safe. Yet, the FBI safe house is a nondescript suburban home 20 minutes outside Seattle. Sarah sits at the kitchen table, watching through bulletproof glass as federal agents patrol the perimeter. Emma is asleep on the couch, finally succumbing to exhaustion after the night's events. David Chun paces near the window, his phone pressed to his ear. He's been coordinating with FBI agents for the past hour, providing details about Volkov's organization that he's kept secret for months. How many more? Sarah asks when he ends the call. 17 arrests so far, but the agents think there are at least 30 people in Volkov's network. Rachel Morrison emerges from the back bedroom, where she's been working with federal prosecutors to prepare her testimony. She looks exhausted but determined. The arraignment is scheduled for tomorrow morning, she says. But Sarah, there's something else. The FBI found something in Volkov's office that you need to see. She opens her laptop and shows Sarah a digital file. It's a dossier, photographs, financial records, Personal information about Sarah's entire family. They've been watching you for months, Rachel says. Long before you started looking into my disappearance. Sarah stares at the photographs. There are images of her leaving her apartment, going to work, meeting friends for coffee. Images of Emma at the university, of her father at construction sites. Why? Sarah asks. Because Volkov suspected your father was working against him. He was building a case to eliminate your entire family. David stops pacing. That's why I had to keep you in the dark. If you'd known what was happening, if you'd started investigating on your own, I'd have been killed months ago, Sarah finishes. All of you would have been killed, Rachel corrects. Volkov doesn't leave loose ends. Sarah's phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. The safe house isn't as safe as you think. Look outside. Sarah shows the message to the others. Rachel immediately moves to the window and peers through the blinds. There, she says, 2 houses down. Black sedan. Same model as the surveillance cars from earlier. David joins her at the window. That's not FBI. How can you be sure? Because I've been working with federal agents for 6 months. They don't use black sedans for surveillance. Sarah's mind races. They found us. How did they find us? Emma stirs on the couch, awakened by their voices. What's happening? We need to move, Rachel says. Now. But as they gather their belongings, Sarah notices something else. The FBI agents who had been patrolling the perimeter are nowhere to be seen. Where are the agents? Sarah asks. David tries to call his FBI contact, but there's no answer. He tries the main number for the Seattle field office, but that call goes to voicemail. The phone lines are jammed, he says. Rachel opens her laptop and tries to access the internet. No connection. They've cut our communications. Emma sits up, fully awake now. They're isolating us. Through the window, Sarah can see more vehicles arriving. Not just the black sedan, but SUVs and unmarked cars. Too many for a simple surveillance operation. They're not here to watch us, Sarah realizes. They're here to finish this. The houses. Landline rings. David answers it. Mr. Chun. The voice is familiar. Marcus Volkov. I assume you're watching the street. Rather impressive, don't you think? You're in federal custody, David says. I was in federal custody. Bail was posted 20 minutes ago. Amazing what a good lawyer and a corrupt judge can accomplish. Sarah feels the bottom drop out of her stomach. How is that possible? Because, Ms. Chun, you overestimated the reach of federal law enforcement. The FBI may have arrested me, but they don't control the judicial system. Through the window, Sarah can see armed figures moving between the houses, taking positions. This isn't a random attack, it's a coordinated operation. What do you want? David asks. Simple. I want the wire recordings destroyed. I want your testimony recanted. And I want Rachel Morrison to disappear permanently this time. And if we refuse, then you all die tonight, and I disappear into a network of safe houses and false identities that I've been building for 20 years. Sarah looks at her family, at Rachel. They're trapped in a house surrounded by armed men, with no way to call for help. There has to be another way, she says. Actually, Emma says quietly, there might be. Everyone turns to look at her. Emma, what are you talking about? The laptop, Emma says. Rachel, when you were preparing your testimony, did you upload any files to cloud storage? Everything. All the evidence, all the recordings. It's all backed up to multiple servers. And the FBI has copies? Yes, but then it doesn't matter if they kill us, Emma says. The evidence still exists. Volkov gains nothing by eliminating us now. Sarah stares at her sister. Emma, that's not... It is, though. Think about it. If we're dead, we become martyrs. The story becomes bigger, not smaller. Federal prosecutors will be under pressure to pursue the case even more aggressively. Rachel nods slowly. She's right. Killing us now would only make things worse for Volkov. Unless, David says grimly, he's not planning to kill us. He's planning to make us disappear. The implications hang in the air. If they vanish without a trace, there's no martyrdom, no public pressure. Just questions without answers. So what do we do? Sarah asks. Emma stands up and walks to the window. We don't let him control the narrative. She opens the window and shouts toward the street. Marcus Volkov, I know you can hear me. Emma, what are you doing? I'm calling his bluff. Emma leans out. The window. You want to kill us? Do it publicly. Let the whole neighborhood see. Sarah realizes what her sister is doing. The houses around them are full of people, residents who are watching the strange activity on their quiet street. If Volkov's people start shooting, there will be witnesses. Emma Chun. Volkov's voice carries across the night air. You're making a mistake. The mistake was yours, Emma shouts back. You should have stayed in jail. Lights are coming on. In houses throughout the neighborhood. People are appearing at windows, some with cell phones, recording the confrontation. You're creating a scene, Volkov calls out. That's not wise. It's the wisest thing we can do, Emma responds. Now everyone can see what happens when people tell the truth about your organization. Sarah's phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Your sister is clever. But there are other ways to silence people. But as Sarah reads the message, she hears something that makes her heart leap. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. Emma, she says, how did you? I sent a message to the FBI's public tip line before we came here, Emma says. Told them about the safe house location. And asked them to monitor social media for any activity. Sarah looks at her sister with new admiration. You were prepared for this. I was prepared for the possibility that Volkov's people had more resources than we thought. The sirens are getting closer, and through the window, Sarah can see the black sedan and SUVs starting to pull away. Volkov's people are retreating rather than risk a confrontation with federal agents. Ladies and gentlemen, Emma calls out to the neighborhood. You've just witnessed an attempt by organized crime to silence federal witnesses. Some of the neighbors are openly recording with their phones now. Others are stepping outside, drawn by the commotion. Volkov's voice carries across the street one more time. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Emma responds. It's been over since the moment you decided to threaten innocent people. The federal vehicles arrive just as the last of Volkov's cars disappear around the corner. Sarah watches as FBI agents secure the area, interview neighbors, and coordinate with local police. Emma, Sarah says, that was either the bravest thing I've ever seen or the most reckless. Sometimes they're the same thing, Emma replies. Rachel closes her laptop and looks at the Chun family. I think, she says, it's time to finish this story properly. But as they prepare to leave the safe house, Sarah notices something that makes her pause. In the distance, barely visible in the darkness, a figure stands watching from the end of the street. Marcus Volkov, keeping his promise that this isn't over. The final confrontation is still coming. 3 months later, Sarah Chun stands in the empty shell of what used to be the Riverside Apartments. The buildings have been condemned and evacuated. Their residents relocated to safe housing while federal investigators document every structural flaw, every shortcut, every piece of evidence that will ensure Marcus Volkov never sees freedom again. The trial ended yesterday with a guilty verdict on all counts: racketeering, fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, and witness intimidation. Volkov was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Strange to be back here, Emma says, joining Sarah in the abandoned apartment where they'd been held hostage. I keep thinking about all the people who lived here, Sarah replies. Families with children, elderly people, students. They had no idea they were living in buildings that could have collapsed at any moment. Emma nods. Dad says the city is implementing new inspection protocols. Every building constructed in the last 10 years is being re-examined. Through the empty window frame, Sarah can see construction crews working on a new development across the street. The sign reads, Morrison Chen Construction, building safe communities. It's a partnership between Rachel Morrison, who's returned to investigative journalism, and David Chun, who's rebuilding his company with a focus on transparency and safety. How is she doing? Emma asks. Rachel? She's adjusting. 5 years of hiding doesn't just disappear overnight. And Dad? Sarah considers the question. Their father has aged in the months since the trial, but he seems lighter somehow, unburdened by the secrets he'd carried for so long. He's healing, we all are. Sarah's phone buzzes. A text from Rachel. Turn on Channel 7, you'll want to see this. They find a battery-powered radio in Sarah's car and tune into the news station. Rachel Morrison's voice fills the air. Good evening. I'm Rachel Morrison with a Channel 7 investigation into how organized crime infiltrated Seattle's construction industry, and how federal agents, working with local contractors, spent 5 years building a case that would ultimately save lives. The report that follows is comprehensive, detailed, and damning. Rachel has used her return to journalism to tell the complete story, not just about Volkov's crimes, but about the system that allowed them to flourish. Today, federal prosecutors announced that they've recovered over $50 million in assets from Volkov's organization, Rachel continues. That money will be used to compensate victims and fund new safety initiatives. Sarah and Emma listen as Rachel interviews residents who were evacuated from dangerous buildings, contractors who were forced to participate in the fraud scheme, and FBI agents who worked tirelessly to bring down the organization. But perhaps most importantly, Rachel says, this case demonstrates that truth has a way of surfacing, even when powerful people try to bury it. The broadcast ends with Rachel's familiar sign-off. This is Rachel Morrison reminding you that, in a democracy, sunlight is the best disinfectant. As they drive back through Seattle, Sarah reflects on how much has changed. The city looks different, now not because the buildings have changed, but because she understands the stories they tell. Every construction site, every apartment complex, every renovation project represents people's lives, their safety, their trust in the systems that are supposed to protect them. Sarah, Emma says as they pull into their father's driveway, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't spotted Rachel in that mall footage? Every day, Sarah admits. But I think the truth would have come out eventually. Rachel was never going to stay hidden forever. David Chun is waiting on the front porch, a cup of tea in his hands. He looks older than his years, but there's a peace in his expression that Sarah hasn't seen in a long time. How was the site visit? He asks. Sobering, Sarah says, but necessary. They sit together on the porch, watching the Seattle skyline as the sun sets. The city sparkles in the distance, beautiful and complex, full of stories waiting to be told. Dad, Sarah says, I need to ask you something. That first anonymous message I received, the one that said the Morrison story isn't over, was that from you? David Chun is quiet for a long moment. No, he says finally. But I suspected you might start investigating on your own. You have your mother's curiosity and your own sense of justice. Then who sent it? I think, David says, it was Rachel herself. She was ready to surface, but she needed someone to make the first move. Sarah considers this. She was waiting for someone to find her. She was waiting for someone she could trust. As the evening deepens, Sarah's phone rings. Rachel Morrison's name appears on the screen. Sarah, I wanted to thank you for everything. You don't need to thank me. You did all the hard work. I hid for 5 years. You're the one who had the courage to go looking for the truth. Sarah looks at her family, at the city they've helped make safer, at the future they've helped secure. Rachel, what happens now? What's next for you? I'm going back to what I do best. Investigating stories, exposing corruption, holding powerful people accountable. But this time, I'm not doing it alone. What do you mean? I mean I'm starting a new investigative unit at Channel 7. We're going to focus on stories that matter, stories that can make a difference in people's lives. Sarah smiles. That sounds perfect. Sarah, I have one more question for you. Would you be interested in joining the team? We need someone who's not afraid to ask difficult questions. Sarah looks at her father, who nods encouragingly. She looks at Emma, who gives her a thumbs up. I'd be honored, Sarah says. As she ends the call, Sarah realizes that the story that began with a reflection in a mall window has become something much larger. It's become a reminder that truth matters, that justice is possible, and that sometimes the most important stories are the ones that almost never get told. The city lights twinkle in the distance, and Sarah Chun knows that somewhere in those lights, there are other stories waiting to be discovered. Stories about corruption and courage, about secrets and truth, about the ordinary people who do extraordinary things when they refuse to look away. She's ready to find them. 6 months later, Sarah's first investigative report airs on Channel 7. The subject: a pharmaceutical company that's been covering up dangerous side effects in a popular medication. The story leads to congressional hearings, federal investigations, and changes in drug safety protocols. But more than that, it establishes Sarah as a journalist worth watching, someone who inherited not just her father's courage, but Rachel Morrison's relentless pursuit of truth. The Morrison story is indeed over. But the stories that matter, the ones that can change lives, expose corruption, and make the world a little safer, those stories never end. They just wait for someone brave enough to tell them. In the final shot of her report, Sarah stands in front of the Seattle skyline, the same view she contemplated months earlier when she first realized that Rachel Morrison might be alive. This is Sarah Chun, Channel 7 News, reminding you that in a democracy, the truth isn't just a right, it's a responsibility we all share. The camera pulls back to reveal the city in all its complexity. A place where secrets hide in plain sight, where corruption can flourish in the shadows, but where determined people armed with questions and courage can still make a difference. The Morrison story may be over, but the next story is just beginning.